Welcome to the Fluffy Cow Studio. I'm really glad you chose to stop by and visit us today and hopefully learn some fun projects. And if you happen to like our little content, please click the thumbs up and click the subscribe button if you think you might want to continue to see some of these videos. Again, thanks for dropping in. Okay, we're going to start by making a block calendar that you can use year after year. I am using the Dollar Tree foam dice, and I'm using 4 sets. Now you can opt to use 3 sets if you want to. 2 of the dice are going to be we're going to put pictures of, I'm using little cows because we are the Fluffy Cow Studio. So I'm going to use cows, and I'm putting these cows on with Mod Podge. First of all, I'll brush on a layer of Mod Podge, and I'll put my little picture of my cow on, and then I'll rub all the little wrinkles out and put a layer of Mod Podge on. Now, I got these little pictures off of Pinterest. I went to Pinterest, I found them. Then I followed the link to the website, and I was able to purchase these little clip arts for not very much money. And then I took them and I just printed them on regular copy paper, which is really easy to Mod Podge with because you don't usually have a lot of ripping or tearing on like you do on napkins. And it's a little thicker, and for this project I like the little thicker. And I'm putting pictures that pertain to holidays or winter, something that pertains to each day of, or each month. And I'm going to do that on 2 dice. Now, because I like little cows and I like the decoration, I did 2 more dice with pictures pertaining to kind of the month or seasons or whatever. Just whatever I wanted to. I wanted just another set to just kind of make room for more cows. Because, you know, you gotta have cows, right? Anyway, you don't have to do the second set. You don't have to do 2 sets of dice. You can only do the one if you want to. You can see I'm just trying to rub the little wrinkles and dots out, or bumps out of it. Whoops, slipped out of my hands. And if I was wise, I would have done 1 dice and then the other and the other and the other, back and forth, rather than trying to do them all 1 dice at a time. Okay, right here I am writing on the letters of the months. Now let me tell you, if you have a Cricut, or if you have stickers or a stencil, use them. I didn't have any, and I couldn't find any at my stores that I was going to. So anyway, I am painting by hand, and I don't have the best handwriting to do this, so I would, believe me, in fact I tell myself that if I can find some, which I will, then I will put them on. I will paint over these and put them on. But when you are writing or trying to write or outline or something with paint, if you will just dip your brush in the water and then dip it into your paint and kind of get your paint the consistency of ink, you will save yourself so many problems because it will flow so much better. You don't want to get it so runny that it slides down your project or bleeds into it, but you just want it so that it flows nice. I'm using a liner brush. I'm just using white paint from apple barrel paint from Walmart. Right here I'm writing on the letters of the month, but I got tired of doing that, so I ended up just painting them on. I did January through June on one dice, and I did July through December on a second dice. You will need 2 dices for the months, 2 dice for the numbers. I used 4 for the pictures, but you can use 2 if you want to. Or you can use 6, it doesn't matter. This is the most time-consuming part of the project. And like I said, if you have a Cricut or stencils, it would be so much easier. Okay, we're going on to the numbers, and I have already painted them on, but when you paint your numbers, you are going to want 2 zeros, you're going to want to paint 2 1s and 2 2s. On one of those dices you're going to paint a 3, 4, and 5, and on the other one you're going to do a 6, 7, 8, and then your 6 will be a 9 as well. Okay, now that I've got the numbers painted, I'm going to dry brush around. I'm going to dry brush some white paint. For you that don't know how to do this, which I'm sure most of you do, is you get some paint on your brush and then you wipe it off so that there's only a little on your brush, and then you just kind of wipe over slightly. You can either do it really gently or you can do it kind of harshly depending on how dark you want. But I was going around the edges, and then I decided I didn't like that. I wanted to go through them all and just kind of do it At first I was going to leave them plain black, but I kind of thought they needed something a little bit, so as you see I'm just kind of going lightly over the top of it. If you want to dry brush on yours, it might be better to dry brush it first. On the letters it didn't matter so much, but on the pictures, if you don't want to get the paint all over your pictures, it might be easier just to do the dry brushing first. I'm just using, well, this one is a round chip brush. I think they work the best to dry brush, and when you're dry brushing, you don't want to cover up all the black. You want it to look like it's kind of old and it's, you know, the white's fading off and the darker colors coming out from underneath, peeking out from underneath. If you like that old farmhouse look, I really like that old farmhouse look. But if you're painting ceramics or something like that, dry brushing makes the whole difference. It will bring your project to life if you do dry brushing rather than just plain painting them. If you dry brush over the top, then they really come to life. And right here I'm just going around the edges, just trying to get a little bit of white around there. I'm just kind of showing you. We got the month and the days and the little cows. I'm kind of experimenting where I want to put my camera, so sometimes the angle's not so the best, but this is a picture of them done. This one is a little bit at Christmas time and winter. And this is a summer one. If you like this project, give me a thumbs up. On this next project, we are making a scale that has an old-fashioned scale that has 2 beaded balls hanging from it. And what we're going to do is at the top we're going to use Dollar Tree beaded wreaths, and I'm going to use 6 of them because I'm going to use 3 for each ball. Right here I'm taking the loop. At the top they're looped together, and I'm going to take the loop, one loop apart, and just kind of straighten it out so I can get it out from the other loop, and I'm going to straighten it out so that I can get the beads off. I'm going to take the beads off, and then I counted the beads so I would know about where halfway was. And I think if I remember right, when I put them back on, I put 25. I think there might have been 50 or 52. But I took one bead off so that I could make a loop at the bottom, so I could, so it would hold the beads together, and that it would keep them from falling off, and that it would supply me a place to put thread my wire through so I could tie them all together. Okay, now that I got the beads off, I'm going to cut it in the middle, as close to the middle as I can get it. Now this one I'm going to take and tighten down that loop that I had unloosened. I'm going to tighten it down, make sure there's no gaps in it, so when I wire it, the wire will not slip out. So I'm pushing on that pretty hard to make a loop, to tighten up the loop. Now I'm just going to thread the beads on, and like I said, I think I did 25 of these, but you want to take one extra off and one off just so that you can make a comfortable loop. And then I'm going to take my needle nose pliers and I'm going to create a loop. I'm going to tighten it down really good and tight, and I want it to kind of be tight against the beads so that the beads don't, you know, slide around. I think I ended up taking one off because it was just a little bit, I couldn't get the bead, or I had put an extra bead on, let's put it that way. Okay, now that I got them all done, I'm using some baling wire. I call it baling wire. I think they call it fencing wire nowadays. So I'm threading that through all those little loops that I made, and this is going to be the bottom. And when I get them all threaded through, I'm going to tighten that up so they don't fall off. Then I'm going to kind of straighten them where I want them, and then I'll probably tighten them up again just to make sure they're really tight so they're where I want them to be. I want them to be snug. Snug as a bug in a rug. Okay, Apparently I got them where I want them to be. I'm going to take another piece of wire for the top, and then I'm going to thread them through the loops that we made. I have tried it both ways with this fencing wire, and I have tried it with a thinner wire that's not as heavy gauged. And fencing wire is small enough that you can work with it and manipulate it, but it's not so heavy, but it's not so light that it won't hold them. The lighter wires I used on them, I didn't like it because it made the beads and the ball kind of wobbly. It wasn't really a nice, secure, tight like it is when you use the fencing wire. Apparently I'm struggling a little bit here. But you just want to make sure you get them on there and you get them on tight, because you don't want them to be loose or flopping back and forth. Kind of like a teacher's arms, you know, when they're writing on the chalkboard and they have all this fat hanging down from their arm. Maybe the teachers aren't like that these days. You want them to be nice and secure. Okay, here I am tightening them up, and then I will take, because this is the top, I will take some of that extra wire that I have and I will make another loop. And it's what I'm going to do with that loop is that's going to be so I can put my wire in that I will hang it with through that loop. So that's so we have a place to hang it. Okay, now I'm just kind of, because after all the threading and wiring and stuff, I'm just now shaping my strands of beads to be where I want them to be. And I'm just tightening it tighter and trying to get that loop just where I want it. Okay, I did that, the same thing for both balls. I repeated the process on the second set of beads. Now I took this rail, I had a rail that I bought off some lady that was selling them, and I took it out and I cut my rail where I wanted to, and it was about 17 inches, 17 and a half inches long. And then I drilled a hole in the top where I just showed you the hole. I took my I bought some of those square blocks from Hobby Lobby. I glued them with wood glue, and then I put a tiny little finishing nail and hammered it on to that, to hammer the square onto the rail so that it would hold it tight while the glue dried. Now I'm taking my dowel, and I'm thinking it's a 1/2 inch dowel. I'm measuring it to 16 inches. I want it to be 16 inches long, so I am going to cut it at 16 inches. I don't have miter scissors, or those like you guys have a hand miter, but I do have my Dremel right handy, so I'm going to use my Dremel tool. I tend to use that a little bit too much, but it worked just fine. It cut smooth, and so I will use that to cut off the excess. It's funny I don't cut my fingers off. I didn't realize it was so close. It usually makes a nice smooth cut, but I think I did take a little bit of sandpaper and just sanded it to make sure both ends were nice and smooth, so the next little balls that we put on would stick. Okay, this is I think they're 2.5 inch or 2 inch. Maybe it's 1.5. I'm not sure, but I bought them so long ago I'm not really sure, but they are, I put them on the end. You can put whatever size on there you want. It's not mandatory for any size. And I take one end of the dowel, I glue it on, and then I will put the dowel through the hole that we drilled, and then I will glue the other ball on. And when I do this, I use wood glue, and then I use hot glue. The hot glue holds it down, holds it tight while it dries. Now, this rail was really thin, and I didn't really have much room to put hot glue on. That is why I put a little finishing nail in the bottom. Okay, next, when I get that so it's set up, held it set up, I'm going to take this little wooden candle holder that I got from Hobby Lobby, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to use wood glue and hot glue, and I'm going to put it on the very top of the square of where the top of my base, and I'm going to glue that on and hold it till it sets up. You can see kind of there the arm sticking out. Like I said, I'm experimenting with places to put my camera, and I just doesn't seem to get in the right place. But so now I'm going to take a chipboard. I got it off of Amazon, and I'm taking a roll of tape, a shipping tape, and I'm doing the inside of that roll to make circles. Now, you don't have to do this part if you don't want to, but I didn't want the green foam to show through, or the white foam for the floral that I'm going to be putting in. So I just I glued it, or I wanted to glue these on, kind of give it a smooth surface for it. I did not, however, use wood glue on these. I just used hot glue. Okay, I'm going to take those cardboards, I'm going to put them on the bottom, and I'm going to take my hot glue gun, and I'm going to glue it onto each one of those strands. I'm going to find the little bead that is closest to it and glue it on that. I apologize. I'm going to try to do much better on getting things in the frame of the camera. But as all I am doing is taking the glue, gluing it on the beads a little bit or the cardboard, either one, where it's going to fit the best or hold the best. And I'm going to do that on both of those little beaded balls. This is a little time consuming because it doesn't sit flat, because we have the rounded and this is straight, so you have to kind of find the beads and glue each strand on and hold it down, and now I think we about got it almost. Ran out of glue there, had to fill her up. Okay, we got that done. Fits on there, got it done, and we're going to do the same to the next one. Once I get that done, I don't think I show that here. I thought I cut it out so that you guys didn't have to be bored and watch another one. I did. Okay, now we're going to paint it with Rust-Oleum, just black. It doesn't have any special name, just black. Then I took it outside and I spray painted the whole thing. I spray painted the beaded balls and I spray painted the base. You kind of can tell as I set it down. See, at the top of that square or rectangle, you can see where I put the top of that candle holder, that wooden candle holder. It just kind of finishes off and makes it look a little more finished. Now I'm going to dry brush the white. I'm going to dry brush white all over this. And I want to remind you, you want to let some of that black show. Don't cover it all up. Now if you don't want to paint, if you want to leave it black, that's just fine. If you want to stain it, that's just fine too. They'd be pretty either way. I'm just getting as dark a light as you want it. Just using a chip brush. This one is a square or a flat brush. I don't know the names of brushes, and I should, but I don't. And I'm just using white. I think this is my favorite part. I really like painting, and I really like the dry brushing because I like the way it looks. It kind of looks, old. But when this is done, it looks kind of classy too. I really like how it turned out. Now with mine on that dowel, I did put a little bit of glue in the hole where I slipped it through the base, just to make it be more secure so it didn't kind of slide around. If you have a good tight, if it fits really tight, then you won't have to do that, but this one didn't have a really super tight fit. Once I get these done, we will do the beaded balls the same way. A little bit of dry brushing. Okay, now we're on to the beads. This is like, if you have a loose, your bead's not on very tight, it makes it harder to paint because they want to spin around and things. But if you get them on there pretty tight, they won't spin around and you can do it a lot faster. Now you're probably not going to see the foam because you're going to put flowers or decorations on if you want to. But I didn't know if I would be putting it up somewhere that's kind of high, and I didn't want people to be able to see the green foam underneath, so that's why I did the circle. If you don't have to put that in there the little cardboard circle, if you don't want to put, if you're not going to put it up very high, then you don't need to worry about that so much. But I like a finished look. I like to have things look like they're, professionally done, or just so they're neat and nice and don't look cheap. These are very nice and would look very good in your home, or very, very nice gifts. This turns out really quite well. If you don't want to go through all the hassle of wiring, cutting them in half and wiring them, if you only use four beaded wreaths, then you can just slip one inside of the other and just zip tie it or something, or wire it, and then you don't have to do all of this wiring and putting it together and cutting it and stuff. But I wanted it to have more than just 2 or 4. You'd have 4 on each side, and I wanted it to have 6. I wanted them to be a little closer together and not be so wide open. But as I was working on this, I was thinking, dang, I should have just used 2 instead of 3, and then I wouldn't have had to do this. But I really like how it turned out, so I'm glad I did. We're going to do the second one the same way. This one was a lot easier to paint because it was the tighter one. But you get the idea. I really like the look of that dry brushing on there. Once we get this painted, I am going to be using Chanel pipe cleaners, and I'm going to take them and thread them through the loop we made at the top. Then I'm going to make another loop, and I'm going to one big enough to go around. I'm going to make a loop that is big enough to go around the little balls on the end of our base. And I'm using black Chanel pipe cleaner. I kind of thought about it later and I should have used white, but I used black. but it doesn't really matter because you can't really see it too much anyway. Okay, see, I used the black chenille there, and now they're hanging on there. And now we're going to put some florals and a candle in the middle there. Now you don't have to do this part if you don't want to, or you can just put something and set it on. If I had little cows, I'd probably put them in the middle of there, but I didn't have any little cows to put in there. So I'm going to put some flowers and a candle. You can put whatever you want, or you can just put a candle without any flowers. It's totally up to you. Now on this base that I have here, I probably would have, and I thought about it afterwards too, as putting a little bit longer base on there so that it won't tip over. If you have it, mine doesn't tip over where I've got it now, and it's fine, so I don't think I'll do it. But if you take one of the balls off, it's gonna tip over on you because it's so small. But where I've got it and how I've got it, it works fine. It sits on the table and I don't have a problem with it. And if you make that pole, you can use a rail, or you can even use a dowel. You can use whatever you want. But if you put it about 17.5 inches, then your balls will fit fine. They'll have a little room, but they won't be dragging the ground either. My house is, or my color scheme kind of is light blue and peach, and so that's kind of the colors of the flowers I'm going with. You can use whatever colors you want, and I'm just arranging them to make them look nice. There's really no rhyme or reason to it, just to my liking. And you can do yours to your liking. And if you guys decide to make any of these wonderful little projects, please post pictures down below. I'd love to see what you come up with. Some of you ladies on here are so creative and so talented. It's so much fun to watch you and to learn from you. I ended up taking these out of the little beaded area to do the flowers because it was a whole lot easier than doing them while they were in there. And I did not glue my floral foam down because I thought it might be kind of fun at Christmas time or fall to put different foliage in there. So I just left. I didn't glue my flowers down or anything because of that, because I thought it would be fun to change them out at different seasons and holidays. I'm just trying to see if it will fit, if my little if there's enough room for my candle to fit in there. And then I'll finish filling in the foam. You can see there, because the base isn't very wide, that when you take one ball off it kind of falls over, so I just sat it down. I got these flowers at the dollar store, A few of them may have came from Walmart. I think those white fluffy things, I think they came from Walmart. But most of them came from the dollar store or Walmart, because Walmart you can get them little picks for a lot, well, not a lot cheaper. They're 97 cents usually. Whereas at the dollar store they're $1.25. The little round balls came from Dollar Tree. Okay, right here, I'm going to be trying to make a bow, B-O-W. I don't know what happened with my tongue there for a minute. Anyway, I'm not having very good successful luck, and because I don't know how to make bowls very good, I'm not going to explain what I did, because they didn't really turn out that great, and I'm not good at it, and I don't really know what I did. I just messed with it until it looked good. But unfortunately, because my filming isn't so great right now, I was out of camera. But I made bows to put on the top of them, and you'll see that at the end here. Okay, now I'm going to take some Mod Podge. I'm going to get some more of those cute little cows that I found on Pinterest, which took me to the website where I could purchase these. And I printed them down on my computer, and I just used computer paper or copy paper, whatever you want to call it. And now I'm just really trying to rub and get those wrinkles out of there. I have a little peachy kind of colored cow, and I have a little blue one, and now I'm just going to go over the tops of them. And then I'm going to take a little tissue or a little rag or something, and I'm kind of wiping the excess off. I didn't want it to go all over the candle, so I just wiped it off. And this is the final product. Even with my disgusting looking bowls, I guess it didn't turn out too bad. There's my little cow on the candle. I didn't have any cows, so I had to improvise. Boy, I'm really having a hard time talking, aren't I? Okay, now for our next project. We are taking two of those, I think they're plates, terracotta plates, a terracotta planter, and a little chick, and a glass fishbowl vase. I'm going to take some white paint and just a regular paintbrush, whatever feels good to me, and I'm going to paint only one coat of white on here. Now if you prefer to do something like do a farmhouse looking thing, you can do dark paint and then, you know, do the dry brushing over it. But this one is going as a gift to my niece, and so it's going to be light springy colors, something happy, because that's how my niece is happy, springy, beautiful. I'm just going to do one coat, and this is not chalk paint, this is just acrylic white, apple barrel, I think. And I'm going to paint all of the trays there too, or little bowls, plates, whatever you want to call them. I'm going to paint it on each side. And I always get paint all over my hands and all over me as well. If you notice in these things, I will probably be wearing shirts that are stained with paint because I get paint over everything. And I decided that when I do these things, when I'm painting, I'm using old shirts because I'm tired of ruining them. So I may not be too dressed up and pretty here, but I am trying to prevent ruining more clothes. I told myself, why don't you take one day and paint something on all those spots, and so you make it look like it's decent to wear out in public. I'm gonna go on the inside of this planter, because I like it to look finished and I like it to look nice, and so I'm going to be painting this on the inside with the white paint. And one thing about this terracotta is it really sucks up the paint fast, and it kind of dries fast. That's why I'm able to touch a little bit while I'm doing it, because it dries almost as fast as you put it on. It dries really quickly, so. I want to remind you that if you like this project and you want to make one, please put your pictures down below, and I'd love to see them. I'd also love to see your comments and see what you have to say. I'm just barely starting out this YouTube channel, and your advice will be very much appreciated. Now I will be using a golden yellow from Apple Barrel. Got it at Walmart as well. And I'm just painting the top part of that planter. I am not going to do the lip that's kind of on the bottom there, or top there, I guess. I'm looking at it as the project I'm making, not as it is. But yeah, that lip there, I don't paint it yellow. And in all reality, I don't really need to paint the top, but I did it anyway. Or the bottom. And by bottom, I mean this the part where the hole is. Right there. I really didn't need to paint this, but I did anyway. Okay, now I'm going to use a flamingo pink. Or flamingo coral. Let me look at that, and I will. Okay, that is a flamingo coral. I didn't think it was flamingo pink, because I have a flamingo pink camouflage sweatshirt, and I always think I'm going hunting flamingos when I wear it. Okay, now I'm going to paint that lip of that pot. Same color, same flamingo coral. And as I paint this, you'll notice I'm not making a nice, even, tidy line. I'm going to go up a little bit above and go into the yellow, because I want to graduate that into the orange or the flamingo. And so I'm letting a little bit go on the top. I'm not being too picky about that. Now I'm going to do the other side of these terracotta bowls or plates, saucers. They have so many names. Choose one, whichever one you like. Okay, I am going to now add a little bit of white. Oh, wait a minute. No, I'm not. I'm going to finish painting the inside because I think it's really important to finish. And I want it finished because I'm giving it as a gift. So I took pictures of these when I did it so I would have them, but as I'm editing it won't let me add pictures. I have to add the thing. I had to add the film. Okay, now I'm going to do this. I'm going to add some white to my golden yellow, and I'm going to get it, tone it down, because when you're doing things, projects like this, you want to have 3 different tones. I'm just tapping on that. I'm not dry brushing it. I'm just tapping. I'm just kind of tapping it. It kind of gives it the effect of sponge painting, and you can use a sponge to do this if you want to. But I'm just tapping it. I'm using a round, maybe it's a stencil brush or a chip brush. And I'm just doing a lighter version of that golden yellow. Just mixing the colors together a little bit to get me a lighter. You want to go with 3 tones. Whenever you're painting and doing something like this, or even in art or anything, you want to at least have 3 different tones, because that gives it the reality, and that just gives it so much more character and life, and it looks so much better. If you find you have something that is a little bit too light and you don't want it, you can always go tap a little bit of the darker color on there. Okay, now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to use the flamingo pink. I'm going to add, or flamingo coral. I'm going to add some white to lighten it up, because again I want 3 different tones on there, at least 3. But on a project like this, 3 is plenty. You can do more if you want, but you can do as many colors as you want, but you probably should only do like 3 tones. And you can make these any color you want. I will be showing you one that I made, because you know we are the Fluffy Cow Studio, so I've got to have some fluffy cows on some things. So I did make one with a fluffy cow, but this one is not going to be. I'm just taking my brush and dabbing, dab, 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 on those saucers. And then I will be doing the same thing, doing the insides and outsides, or bottoms and tops, I should say. going to go over that lip and do it too with the coral and the... It's just going to lighten it up. And I'm tapping it. You can use a sponge if you want. Okay, now I'm going to be using white. And I'm just dabbing white on. Not a lot, just dabbing it on because it makes them look much better. Okay, I've got that done. You see I Mod Podged a little picture of a chick on there. My niece is very much into yoga. She teaches yoga. And so I seen these little yoga chicks and I thought it was so cute and it was so her. So I made this for her. I found a little chick and that little picture of a chick doing some kind of yoga. This is, I'm putting alcohol on here to clean it really good so that the glue will stick. And I'm using E6000 for this, and I'm putting a really good share. I'm putting a lot of glue on there because I want it to really hold. And now I'm setting that terracotta plate on top of it right there on the bottom. And just pressing on it to kind of hold it there for a minute. I'm going to go ahead and kind of let it dry a little bit, and then I'm going to I'm putting some E6000 on the bottom of this fishbowl base. I'm going to center it and put it there, and then I will let it dry a bit. Okay, you can see I glued a little chick inside there. Now you don't have to put anything on the inside. The ones that I made, other ones, you know, I made some where I put candy and just used them as a candy dish. And I've made some where I put rocks, those glass rock things, and candles. And the one I made for myself, which I usually rarely never do, I used a candle. I just put a candle in there. Right now I'm just adding some little flowers and making it look a little springy and nice. Just adding a little pizzazz to it. You don't have to do this part if you want. I made several for our Christmas at work one time for the people at work, and I never did put this flowers on. I just put the pictures, and I think I filled the little glass jars with candy, and they loved them just like that. It, you know, it was fine. Right here I'm just pulling all the extra strings of hot glue off. On this little plate, this second plate that I have, you see sitting in the corner there, I am going to take the same balls that I used for the project with the, I want to call it an old scale, with the beaded balls. I took a ball with a flat side and I put it on the top. I painted it yellow, and I did the same procedures in painting the yellow as I did the terracotta pot. And then I glued it with the E6000 onto the other side of that thing. And then this is the finished project. You can see the little ball on top that holds it.
It doesn't matter if it is or not.
I wrote Yoga Chick on the bottom
Perfect.
there.
Okay.
I'm making you dizzy. I've got to learn how to use this camera better. I filled it with candy when I gave it to her, and they ate the candy, and as they ate the candy, the kids were so excited because they there's a chick inside here. And this is the finished product of my beaded balls. I'm so sick of saying that. I can't believe that these are the finished projects. And there's the little calendar sitting on my fireplace. And over here you will see where I made my little cow and my little... I want to thank you for watching, and I sure hope you decide to come back again. Thank you so much. Click that subscribe and like button. Thank you.